folks coming out of the nooks at your doorbell rings. Can you hear them sing? Hello. It's Halloween. Hello. It's Halloween. Hello. It's Halloween. Hello. It's Halloween.
Yes, you've heard it correctly. It is Halloween 2025 on My Little Pony Monday. And I think we're going to have a spooktacular time. We just gotta learn what the theme is after this intro.
The ghosts and the spooks coming out of the nooks as your doorbell rings. Can you hear them sing? Hello. It's Halloween. Hello. It's Halloween. Hello. It's Halloween. Hello. It's Halloween.
So, after a ton of deliberation, we have found our verdict. The 2027 verdict is What a Fright is Nightmare Night. The 2026 verdict is Manticore Mania. And this year, the misunderstood dragon who ate the ponies. You know, I always love dragon stories, so I'm actually making like a Wattpad story about this, but it's way different. It involves humans. Okay, so let me get into the spooky content. And so, 'twas a great morning at Nightmare Night. It was Nightmare Night that night. It was a frightful delight. So Rainbow Dash soars to the sky and works with Applejack to make sure that all of the decorations are ready. Now, Rainbow Dash, she is handling all the things that require airborne attention, and Applejack is dealing with the things that involve ground-based attention, if you know how that works. And that left Fluttershy in charge of rehearsing the skills of the tricks with the animals. So Fluttershy was in the lead, and so Angel Bunny and Harry the Bear, they started teaching the others that consisted of birds and other mammals and amphibians and frogs and fish, and even the phoenixes she once found in the Everfree Forest. Zecora was also offering a few of them lessons in case it was too packed for them to handle. And so Pinkie Pie was left, and her job was easy. Convince the ponies to go outside. And outside they did go. Now Twilight Sparkle, she was working on a different and special plan. Her special plan was to invite the dragons from the Dragonlands, the griffins from Griffinstone, the Kirins from the Kirin Grove, and the changelings from the Changeling Lands, as well as the Crystal Empire ponies. It was going to be the best Nightmare Night that Ponyville had ever fielded, and it was going to be this year. Notice I said dragons, because dragons were the most populous out of the visitors that came. Dragon Lord Ember was the first to descend down to the earth, down to Equestria, to see all the beautiful work they've done. and she was impressed. It was amazing. So she congratulated them, and the night went on. It was a great time to be alive. Okay, this story's getting lame. Let's start. Once the night was all fitted up and done, Twilight Sparkle decided it was time to accompany some of the fillies on the trick-or-treat. But then something happened. One of the fillies came to her, and it appeared as though she was crying. Is that a moth? Ooh. The filly was just hyperventilating and all this weird stuff. So Twilight naturally goes to check on her to see if she's doing alright, because, Nightmare Night can give you a lot of what we call the chills here on Earth. So, as she went to check what's wrong, a massive shadow loomed overhead and casted a shadow over a Ponyville. It was one of the rogue dragons that Garble had trained to terrorize Equestria, because he was still bitter about not getting to be Dragon Lord. So he decided to send a cannibal out there. I should probably censor that word. He decided to send a dragon who would terrorize the ponies. And it seemed to be chasing everyone, spitting fire at them. And this is where everything starts. Twilight rushes to her friends with the little pony in hand or in hoof. So Applejack is the first on scene, wondering what might be going on. And Twilight explains that the filly was hyperventilating and it was concerning. So what she did is bring it over for medical evaluation. Maybe he was just scared because it was a natural fear response for Nightmare Night. But it wasn't. There was a huge thing with wings chasing them. And it turned out to be a dragon. So maybe Dragon Lord Ember might have something to do with this. We have to ask her, why is a random rogue dragon chasing around every pony? So they start rushing to the place where Dragon Lord Ember is being hosted at. And it was horrifying. It was urgent, and it was an emergency. You see the flashing lights? That means it was an emergency. So Twilight had gone into the dragon's quarters, and then she asked why there was a random dragon running around terrorizing every pony. And she replied with something that it's not natural. And that's when they realized this is not in any way known by Ember. So this must have been hidden. And this looks like a rebellious act. But what looks like a harmless prank turned wrong was the fact. Excuse me. Oh! What scared Dragon Lord Ember was the fact that it had not been known to her. And everything is typically told in advance. So this must have been a rebellion. And the only dragon who would stage such a rebellion is Garble. So they have to go over there. And then it escalated. It escalated into the dragons starting to consume the lively ponies of Ponyville. Of course, they were swallowing the ponies whole. They were alive while this was going on. And so, every pony freaked the hell out, right? I mean, what would you expect? A dragon is coming to eat you. Like, I would be freaking out as well. So Twilight and the others knew they would have to do something. So Rainbow Dash would go confront this dragon and see what is causing this. And Applejack would set up traps so Twilight and Fluttershy could negotiate. And if anything went wrong, then we would use Fluttershy's stare. It was a great idea that they formulated. So as they began the chase, they began to give way because they were being chased by the very hungry dragon. And this dragon wasn't having any of the equestrian shenanigans. Nightmare Night is just a feast. And it reminded them of Nightmare Moon. Like, they thought Nightmare Moon was coming because they literally believed that she was in the form of a dragon, and she come to get the ponies. She had come to eat them. And so it was. They eventually caught up to this dragon, and then they proceed to question it. Like, what is it doing? Why is it doing? Where and when and how was it doing? And then they encountered Garble, the one behind it all. And he was still so bitter, he decided to do this. Seriously, bro? That is not cool. That is not very friendly of you. You should be ashamed of yourself. So anyways, they start to restrain him and ask him why he was doing this. And then he suddenly broke down into tears because he wanted the chance to rule as well. He had, let's hypothetically say that he was at a young age where dragons, they were hideous to anything involving the outside world. What am I doing? They acted hideously towards anything outside the world. And so they began to open up, and Ember had such ideas. Maybe, like the changelings, he could co-rule with Ember and be able to secure power while also helping others. But then Dragon Lord Torch in the Gauntlet of Fire said there was only one winner, the strongest and the fastest. This discouraged Garble a little bit. And then it all went downhill because Spike helped Ember win, as you know from season 6, episode 5. The Gauntlet of Fire was the victor. She was the victor of the Gauntlet of Fire, thanks to Spike, influenced by two ponies who realized that if Garble was in power, he'd literally start an invasion. See my earlier episodes. So, he wanted a chance. So we went to Dragon Lord Ember. I'm sorry, guys. I'm hiccuping. Alright. They all went to Dragon Lord Ember and see if he could get, like, a second chance at life, basically. Like, a second chance at being himself. And maybe one day being the Dragon Lord's successor, as long as he doesn't recklessly invade other countries, then we will be good. Dragon Lord Ember surprisingly agreed and apologized because she got all the glory and never meant to really actually share it. And so Dragon Lord Garble and Dragon Lordess Ember were founded, creating a 2-monarch system in the Draconic lands. And this led to things going to ease. They were easing up to Equestria. And Nightmare Night was never the same ever again, because the dragons have been changed for the better. But seriously, why terrorize the fucking ponies just because you're hungry? That is something I will never realize. But there is one thing we can do. In the promise of Nightmare Night, we can always rise up in the face of fear, in the face of danger, in the face of lust and greed and power. And that is a very, very happy Halloween to y'all. Like and subscribe if you have enjoyed this video. And I hope you have enjoyed. Bye. I love you. Good night.